Everyone said she was too much, too loud, too dark, too broken, too alone. They said no man would ever choose her. And for 29 years, the world did everything it could to prove them right. Then the Korean mafia boss walked through her door, looked straight at her like she was the only real thing in the room, and every single word they ever said about her started to tremble. Before you find out what happened next, this story is going to pull the floor right out from under you, and you will not see the ending coming. Make sure you are subscribed so you do not lose a single moment of this. The day everything changed began the way most dangerous days do. Quietly. Beatrice Owusu-Hammond was 30 seconds late opening her little restaurant, the way she was every Tuesday, because her 7-year-old daughter Lily had lost one shoe and found it inside the microwave. Nobody could explain that, not even Lily. "Mama, why does the shoe smell like rice now?" Lily asked, holding it up with the seriousness of a tiny professor. "Because you put it there, baby." Beatrice tugged the shoe onto the small foot, kissed the top of the braided head, and stood up straight. "Grandma Effie is coming at 3. Be good for Mrs. Asante next door." "I am always good." Beatrice gave her daughter the look that every mother in the world owns, the one that says we both know better. And then she picked up her bag, stepped out into the cool morning air of the city, and walked the 4 blocks to the restaurant she had built with her own 2 hands. The sign above the door read, "Beats Kitchen." The paint was slightly chipped on the letter B. She kept telling herself she would fix it. She never fixed it. She had opened Beats Kitchen 3 years ago, 6 months after Lily's father packed a bag in the middle of the night and left a note that said, and this is word for word, "I am not built for this." That was it. No explanation, no forwarding address, just 5 words and an empty side of the closet. Her mother had said, "Come home, B." Her friends had said, "You should have seen it coming." Her landlord had said, "Rent is still due." So Beatrice had done what she always did when the world knocked her down. She got up, she tied her apron, and she cooked. She cooked until the grief became something she could live with. She cooked until the restaurant stopped being a distraction and started being a purpose. She cooked until the little place on Creston Avenue had a line outside on weekends and a regulars board on the wall with 12 names on it. 12 names. She knew all of them. Their orders, their birthdays, their problems. Tuesday morning meant prep work. She had deliveries coming at 7, a new soup recipe she wanted to test by 8, and a broken refrigerator seal that the repairman had promised. For the 3rd week in a row, he would fix this time. She was testing the soup when the door opened. She did not look up right away. The sign on the door said closed, but the door was unlocked because the delivery man always came through the front. She assumed it was him. "I will be right with you," she called out. "Just leave the boxes by the counter." Nobody left any boxes. She looked up. There were 4 men standing inside her restaurant. 3 of them were large in the way that made rooms feel smaller. They wore dark clothing, and they stood with a kind of careful stillness that Beatrice had never seen before, like they had been trained to take up as little space as possible while still making clear that the space belonged to them. The 4th man stood slightly in front of the others. He was not the tallest. He was not the broadest. But something about him made the 3 large men behind him feel like background. He was Korean. He looked to be in his early 30s. His hair was dark and pushed back from his face. He wore a plain dark jacket and dark trousers, and there was nothing about his clothing that announced anything, and yet everything about him announced everything. His eyes found her immediately. They were calm. That was the word for it. Not cold, calm, the way deep water is calm. The kind of calm that has seen a great many things and decided not to be surprised by any more of them. "Are you Beatrice Owusu-Hammond?" he asked. His English was clear, precise, with an accent that shaped each word carefully, like he had learned the language by paying close attention to it. She set down her spoon. "The sign says closed." "Yes." He looked at the sign on the door, then back at her. "Are you Beatrice Owusu-Hammond?" She crossed her arms. "Who is asking?" One of the large men behind him shifted. The fourth man, the one with the calm eyes, raised one hand slightly, barely 2 inches from his side, and the large man went completely still again. "My name is Seong Jae-In," the man said. "I was told this is the best restaurant on Creston Avenue." "It is the only restaurant on Creston Avenue." Then, the information was accurate. Something moved in his expression. Not quite a smile, but the ghost of one. "I would like to speak with you about a business arrangement." Beatrice looked at the 4 men. She looked at the calm eyes of the one called Seong Jae-In. She thought about the broken refrigerator seal. She thought about the fact that her rent was 3 weeks from being overdue. She thought about Lily's face and the shoe that smelled like rice. "I am not open yet," she said. "Come back at 11. The ghost of the almost smile moved again. "I will come back at 11. He turned. The 3 large men followed him out the door with the same careful silence they had entered with. Beatrice stood alone in her kitchen. Her hand, when she picked up the spoon again, was perfectly steady. But the soup she had been tasting for 30 minutes, suddenly tasted different to her, like something had shifted in the air. She pushed the feeling aside. She had a restaurant to open. He came back at 11, alone this time. He sat at the table nearest the window, table 4, which wobbled slightly because one leg was shorter than the others, a fact Beatrice had addressed with a folded piece of cardboard. He looked at the cardboard under the leg for a moment, then looked up at her. "The table is unsteady," he said. "The cardboard fixes it. A new leg would fix it better. A new leg costs money." She set a glass of water on the table. "What can I get you?" He ordered the jollof rice with the grilled chicken and the fried plantain, because those were the 3 things on the specials board. He asked no questions about what was in the food. He just ordered, folded his hands on the table, and waited. Beatrice cooked his food. She told herself she cooked it the same way she cooked everything, with the same care, the same attention. She told herself this firmly. She brought the food. He looked at it for a moment before he ate. Not the way people look at food, when they are suspicious of it. The way people look at something when they are giving it proper respect. He ate in silence. Beatrice wiped down the counter and watched him from the corner of her eye. After several minutes, he set down his fork. "This is very good," he said. "I know," she said. He looked at her, that almost smile again. "You are not modest. I am accurate?" She came to stand across the table from him. "You said business arrangement." "Yes." He laced his fingers together on the table. "I am building something in this city. A compound. A private residence with an attached event space. I need a head chef for the kitchen. Someone to oversee the food for private events, for the household, and for certain gatherings." "What kind of gatherings?" "The kind where the food must be excellent and the chef must be discreet." Beatrice looked at him steadily. "Discreet about what?" "About the people present, about conversations overheard, about details that are none of a chef's business." She was quiet for a moment. "Who told you about me?" "A man named Raymond Cross. He said you catered his daughter's wedding 2 years ago and that he had not eaten food that good since his grandmother was alive." Raymond Cross. She remembered him. Quiet man, sad eyes, generous tipper. "Raymond Cross," she said slowly, "is not the kind of man who eats at restaurants on Creston Avenue." "No," Seong Jae-In agreed. "He is not." She understood then, without him saying it, what that meant. Raymond Cross moved in certain circles. Seong Jae-In moved in those circles. The kind of circles that did not appear in newspapers, but whose decisions appeared everywhere else. She should have said no. Every reasonable voice inside her said no. "How much?" she asked. He named a number. Beatrice kept her face very still. That number was her rent for a year. That number was Lily's school fees through secondary school. That number was a new refrigerator seal and a new table leg and the chipped letter B on her sign fixed and fixed properly. "Per event," he added, "plus a monthly retainer for the household kitchen." She looked at him. Why me? There are trained chefs in this city. Chefs with degrees and restaurants with 3 stars. He looked back at her. Because Raymond Cross said your food tastes like someone made it for a person they love. I need food that tastes like that. He paused. The people who come to my table have had enough of food made for money. Beatrice was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I have a daughter, 7 years old. There will be times I cannot be away from her overnight. That is manageable. I do not cook food I do not believe in. You tell me what occasion and I decide the menu. He tilted his head slightly. Within reason. My reason, not yours. He considered her for a moment. Then he nodded once. I will have a contract prepared, he said. I will have a lawyer look at it, she said. Good, he said. And this time it was not, almost a smile. It was one. Brief, real, and gone. That is exactly the right answer. He left a tip that was larger than the cost of the meal. Beatrice stared at it after the door closed behind him. Then she went to the back, sat down on the step where she always sat when she needed to think, and said out loud to nobody, What did I just agree to? The contract was real. The lawyer, her cousin Portia, who worked in commercial law and always spoke in a voice like she was permanently disappointed in everyone, looked it over for 2 days and called back. It is airtight, Portia said. Like, aggressively airtight. Whoever wrote this is serious. Is it legal? Yes, unusual but legal. The NDA section is thorough. You cannot discuss the clients, the location, or the events, but that is standard in private catering for high net worth individuals. A pause. Bea, who is this person? A client. A client who is paying you. Portia said the number with feeling. Per event. Yes. Silence. Sign it, Portia said. And then call me every single day. Beatrice signed it on a Friday. By Monday, she had received the address of the compound, a schedule for her first event, and a message from a man named Mr. Pike, who she came to understand was Seong Jae-In's personal assistant, telling her that she would have access to the kitchen from 6 a.m. onward, and that the budget for the first event was, and she is quoting directly here, unlimited. She stood in that kitchen for the first time on a Wednesday morning and understood what the word unlimited looked like in physical form. The kitchen was the size of her entire restaurant. Every surface was clean and precise and well lit. The equipment was the kind she had only seen in professional cooking videos, the kind that worked exactly as it was supposed to every time. Every ingredient she had listed in her advance request was already there, organized, labeled, perfect. She stood in the middle of it, and something complicated happened in her chest. Something between joy and sorrow, because this was everything she had ever wanted a kitchen to be, and it was not hers. She cooked. The first event was a dinner. 14 guests. She did not see their faces. The dining room was separate. The food was served by staff she did not manage. She sent out 6 courses and heard nothing until Mr. Pike appeared in the kitchen doorway at the end of the night. Mr. Seong would like to thank you, he said. I would rather have feedback, she said, still cleaning her station. Mr. Pike blinked. He was a small man with round glasses and the expression of someone who was very competent and very used to being the only competent person in a room. I will relay that. Seong Jae-In appeared in the doorway 12 minutes later. He still wore what he had worn for the dinner, a darker jacket than the first time she had seen him, fitted but not flashy. He looked around the kitchen for a moment. Everything was already clean. You cleaned as you went, he said. I always clean as I go. A messy kitchen is a slow kitchen. She set down her cloth. Feedback. He looked at her. The soup in the 3rd course. What was the green garnish? Scent leaf oil. Is that a complaint? No, I want to know what it is. I have never tasted it before. It is a West African herb. It pairs with the pepper base in that broth. She crossed her arms. What else? The 5th course. The lamb. Too much salt? Too little? Neither. The spice blend. There was something under the cumin. Something warm. Grains of selim. He was quiet for a moment. I have not had that before either. Most people have not. He looked at her the way he had looked at the food at table 4 in her restaurant, with proper attention. You are teaching me something every time I eat, he said. It was not a complaint, and it was not a compliment. It was just what he said, flat and honest, like a fact about weather. Beatrice did not know what to do with that. So she said, "Same time next week," Mr. Paik said. "Yes." He turned to go, then paused. "Your daughter. Is she well?" Beatrice went still. "How do you know about my daughter?" "You told me," he said simply. "At the restaurant. You said you have a 7-year-old. She had forgotten she had said that. She felt something relax in her that she had not realized was tense. "She is well. She found her shoe in the microwave this morning. Again." He turned back to look at her. "Again?" "She says it is a hiding spot. I have given up understanding it." Something happened in his face. Not the almost smile. Something quieter and more real than that. Like a door opening just slightly in a house that kept all its doors closed. "Children are unpredictable," he said. "Do you have any?" She asked it before she thought about whether she should. He looked at her for a moment. "No," he said. And then, after a pause that felt like it had weight, "Not anymore." She did not ask what that meant. He did not explain it. He left. She drove home that night through the city and tried very hard not to think about the way he had said "not anymore." She told herself it was none of her business. She told herself she was there to cook. She was there to cook. Weeks passed. The routine became real. Twice a week she was at the compound. Once a week there was an event. The other day she used the kitchen to test new recipes, which Mr. Paik had told her was perfectly acceptable, and which she suspected Seong Jae-In had arranged specifically because he wanted to. She began to see him more, not always at dinners. Sometimes he was in the compound when she arrived in the mornings, sitting at a large table in the room adjacent to the kitchen, working through papers. He drank his coffee black. He worked in silence. He did not disturb her, and she did not disturb him. But over the weeks, a kind of language developed between them without either of them deciding to build it. She would bring a second cup of coffee out without being asked. He would slide a piece of paper her way sometimes, a guest list with dietary restrictions. She would nod. He would nod. Some mornings they went an hour without speaking a word, and it felt like a full conversation. She told herself this was professional. She told herself she was excellent at keeping things professional. Then, one morning she arrived to find a 7-year-old sitting on the floor of the kitchen eating from a bowl of the prepped fruit she had left in the refrigerator the day before. "Lily Owusu-Hammond," Beatrice said from the doorway, very quietly. "What?" Lily looked up with guava in her cheek. "Mrs. Asante had to go to hospital. The nice man in the suit said I could wait here." Beatrice looked up. Seong Jae-In was standing in the doorway of the adjacent room, watching. He had the expression of a man who had made a decision and was prepared to defend it. "Her sitter was unavailable," he said. "She is fine here. You let a 7-year-old into your—" "She knocked on the gate and told my security guard her mother worked here and she had nowhere to go." A pause. She was very persuasive. "Mama?" Lily said, completely unbothered. "This fruit is really good. Also, this kitchen is the biggest kitchen I ever saw. Also, the man in the suit knows how to say hello in 5 languages. He taught me too." Beatrice looked at Seong Jae-In. He looked back at her. "2 languages," she said. "Korean and Japanese," he said. "She asked me to teach her something. It seemed impolite to refuse." Beatrice did not know. She genuinely did not know what to do with a man like this. A man who let her daughter in through the gate and taught her Japanese words and stood in doorways with the expression of someone who was trying very hard to seem like they had not done anything remarkable. "Fine," she said. She went to the kitchen. She cooked. Lily sat on a stool and asked questions about everything she did, which was what Lily always did. She asked why the onions made Beatrice cry. She asked if the pot was angry because it was making noise. She asked Seong Jae-In, who had drifted to the doorway again, whether he liked spicy food. "Yes," he said. "Mama makes the best spicy food," Lily announced. "She made pepper soup when I was sick, and it fixed me in one day." "I believe it," he said. Lily looked at him with her serious professor face. "Do you have a mama who cooks for you?" The room changed. It was subtle, but Beatrice felt it, like a temperature drop. "I did," he said. "She passed away." Lily considered this with the solemn care that children give to serious things. "I am sorry," she said. "Do you miss her?" "Every day," he said. Lily nodded, satisfied that this was the right answer. "My mama is the best mama," she informed him. "In case you were wondering." "I was not wondering," he said. "I already knew." Beatrice kept her eyes on the pot. She absolutely did not look at him. She cooked. She breathed. She told herself, again and firmly, that she was there to cook. But later that night, after she had brought Lily home and put her to bed and stood in her small kitchen that smelled like the food from dinner, she thought about the way he had said every day. The same flat, honest, factual way he said everything. Like feelings for him were not things to perform, but things to report. Like the truth was the only language he knew how to speak. She sat on her kitchen floor, the way she sat on the step at the restaurant when she needed to think, and admitted something to herself. She was in trouble. The thing about trouble is that it does not always look like trouble. Sometimes it looks like a man who remembers your coffee order without writing it down. Sometimes it looks like a folder slid quietly across a table, a folder that contains, when you open it, the medical records of your daughter's cardiologist and a note that says, in careful handwriting, "I noticed the prescription on the counter. The best pediatric cardiac specialist in the country works 40 minutes from here. I took the liberty of making an inquiry. She is accepting new patients." Beatrice sat very still when she found that folder. Lily had a small heart condition. Nothing immediately dangerous, the doctors said, but something that needed watching. Something that cost money to watch properly. Something that had been quietly eating through Beatrice's savings since Lily was 4 years old. She had not told Seong Jae-In this. She had not told him anything. She went to the room where he worked. He looked up from his papers. "How do you know about Lily's heart?" she asked. He was quiet for a moment. "The prescription bottle, on the counter of the kitchen, the last time she was here." He paused. "I looked up the medication. You looked up my daughter's medication. I was concerned." She looked at him. Seong Jae-In. She did not use his name often. He noticed. She could see it. "I am trying to understand whether what you just did is kind or whether it is overstepping," he said. "Yes. It is both," he said simply. "I know that. I am not—" Something shifted in his expression. "I do not always know where the line is, between helping and overstepping. I have been told I do not know this." He looked at the table. "My intention was only to help." Beatrice stood there. She thought about the folder. She thought about what the specialist would mean for Lily. Better monitoring, better care, maybe better answers. She thought about the cost, and then she thought about the retainer she was earning. And she thought about how none of that would have happened without the man across this table. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "The job, the kitchen, Why me, really? There are better chefs." "I told you why. You told me what Raymond Cross said. That is not a full answer." He set down his pen. He looked at the table for a moment, then at her. "I grew up without enough to eat," he said. "My mother cooked with what she had. She made food from nothing and it tasted like something. When I sat at that table in your restaurant..." He stopped. "The food tasted like my mother's kitchen. I have been trying to find that taste for 15 years. He looked at her steadily. "I found it in your restaurant." The room was completely quiet. Beatrice said, "You built an empire, and what you were really looking for was your mother's cooking." He looked at her with an expression that she could not fully name. When you say it like that, it is the truth. Yes. A pause. It is. She took the folder. She made the appointment. And she told herself, standing in her car afterward, that her chest felt tight because she was grateful. Just grateful. That was all. The event 2 weeks later was different from the others. Beatrice sensed it from the moment she arrived. The staff moved differently. Quicker, quieter, with a kind of careful tension she had not seen before. Mr. Pike gave her the guest list, and she noticed immediately that it had no names on it. Just numbers. Table placement numbers. I need to know dietary restrictions, she said. No restrictions, Mr. Pike said. Just impressive. Impressive is not a dietary restriction, Mr. Pike. No, ma'am, I know. He just said, make it impressive. She cooked impressive. 7 courses. She pulled from everything she knew. Her grandmother's recipes, the things she had learned in the compound kitchen over the past months. Techniques she had been developing for years. She cooked like something was being decided that night, even though she did not know what. The dinner went on for 3 hours. The kitchen staff served and returned without speaking. At one point, Beatrice heard raised voices from the dining room, not arguing exactly, but the sound of men saying serious things seriously. Then the kitchen door opened. Not Mr. Pike. Not a server. One of the large men she had seen on the very first morning. The ones who stood behind Seong Jae-In like dark background. Ma'am, the man said, you need to leave the kitchen. Beatrice looked at him. I have 2 more courses to send out. The dinner is concluded. You need to leave now. She looked at him steadily. The food is not finished. I am not leaving my... Beatrice. Seong Jae-In's voice from the doorway behind the man. He was standing there, and the expression on his face was the one she had never seen before. Not calm, not the almost smile. It was tight, controlled, like something had happened in the dining room that required a great deal of effort to contain. Please go home tonight, he said. I will explain tomorrow. She looked at him. She had learned, over these months, how to read him. The way you learn to read a language by being around it. This expression said, this is serious and I need you safe. She took off her apron. She went home. She did not sleep. At 6 in the morning her phone rang. Unknown number. But then the voice was Seong Jae-In's, from a number she did not have. Are you home? He asked. Yes. Good. Stay there today. What happened last night? A pause. There are people who do not want the arrangement I am trying to build here. They came to make that clear. Are you? I am fine. He said it quickly, like he knew what she was going to ask. But there is something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you before you signed the contract. Beatrice sat down on her kitchen floor. Tell me. The work I do, the organization I run. It is not legal, he said. Not all of it. I think you suspected this. I suspected, she said. The events at the compound are where I conduct negotiations, agreements between groups who cannot meet publicly. The food, the environment. It is how trust is built. If the table is good, the meeting is good. You understood this without my saying it. Yes. Last night, one of the groups sent a message. They do not want me established here. They believe if they disrupt my events, they disrupt my ability to operate. A pause. They threatened the person responsible for the table. Beatrice's blood went cold. Me! I will not let anything happen to you, he said. And something in his voice had changed. The flat, honest, factual tone was still there, but underneath it was something else. Something that had been building quietly over months of coffee and morning silences and a little girl on a kitchen stool asking questions. I need you to understand that I will not let anything happen to you. She sat on her kitchen floor with the phone against her ear and the morning light coming in through the window and her daughter still asleep in the next room, and she said, Seong Jae-In. Yes, I need you to be honest with me. Is Lily in danger? A silence. The kind that cost him something. There, is a small possibility. I am addressing it, she said very quietly. Then I think we have a problem. I know, he said. I am sorry. She had never heard him say sorry before. She had not known until this moment that the word in his voice could land so hard. She told him she needed 3 days. He gave her 3 days, plus a security detail she didn't ask for that appeared silently outside her apartment building and was so discreet she only knew they were there because Mr. Paik texted her to say please do not be alarmed by the gray car. She was a little alarmed by the gray car. Then she decided she was more alarmed by the alternative. In those 3 days she talked to Portia, who said, with the voice of someone permanently disappointed, "You have to exit the contract. The NDA still applies, but the endangerment clause means you can walk away penalty-free." She talked to her mother, who drove 4 hours to sit with Lily and look at Beatrice with the eyes of a woman who sees exactly what is happening and is choosing, this once, to say nothing. She talked to Lily, who asked if the nice man in the suit was okay, and then went back to drawing and then said, without looking up, "He looked at you the way Mr. Asante looks at Mrs. Asante." And Beatrice pretended not to hear that, and went to stand in the hallway for a moment and collect herself. On the 4th day, she went back to the compound. Seong Jae-In was not in his usual place at the table. Mr. Paik met her at the door with the expression of a man who was braced for something. "He is in the East Room," Mr. Paik said. "He has not slept." "That is not my—" She stopped. "Take me to him." The East Room turned out to be a room she had never been in, smaller than the working room, less formal, with a wide window and a table with papers on it that had clearly been there for many hours. Seong Jae-In was at the window. He turned when she came in and she saw for the first time what 3 days without sleep looked like on him. The careful composure was still there, but it was thinner, like paint on a wall when you can start to see the plaster underneath. "You came back," he said. "I came back to tell you something," she said. She stood across the room from him because she needed the distance to say this clearly. "I looked into you." He was very still. "Not through Portia. I hired someone, independently." She crossed her arms. "I know what your organization does. I know about Yeosu, your hometown. I know what happened to your family when you were 14. I know that what you built was built to protect people who had nobody else to protect them, and that somewhere along the way the protecting and the crime became the same thing and you stopped being able to separate them." She watched his face. "I know about the child." His expression changed completely. For the first time in all these months, every door in that house opened at once. Every door he kept carefully closed swung wide. And what was behind them was grief. Open, unguarded, exhausted grief. "Her name was Soo-Jin," he said. His voice did not break. It was very level, and that levelness cost him more than breaking would have. "She was 3 years old. She was my sister's daughter." "What happened to her?" He stopped. "What happened to her is the reason I am here, in this city, trying to build something different." Beatrice uncrossed her arms. She walked across the room and she sat down at the table, the one with all the papers, and she said, "Sit down." He sat. "Tell me what different means," she said. He told her. For the next 2 hours he told her what no NDA covered because no NDA had anticipated this. 2 people sitting at a paper-covered table while the morning grew around them, telling the truth. He told her about Yeosu, about his mother's kitchen, about the organization that had taken everything from his family and the decision he had made at 14 to become the kind of power that couldn't be taken from. He told her about Soo-Jin, 3 years old, lost in a conflict that had nothing to do with her. He told her about the arrangement he was building in this city, a legitimate front, a transition, a way out that required the trust of very dangerous people who needed to believe, first, that he was still the man they had always known. The dinners, the impressive table, the food that tasted like something made for someone loved. "You are trying to get out," she said when he finished. "I am trying to get out without getting everyone around me killed in the process," he said. She looked at him. He looked back. Outside the window, the morning had gone fully gold. "The people who threatened me," she said, "they do not want you to get out. No. Getting out means their access to certain channels disappears. They need me to stay." He paused. "They thought threatening you would make me choose." "And what did they think you would choose?" He looked at her with those calm eyes that were not calm at all anymore. They were full and present and direct. "I think they thought I would choose them, to protect my position." Another pause. "They miscalculated." Beatrice looked at her hands on the table. She thought about what it meant, what it really meant. To be the person someone miscalculated over. To be the reason a man with everything at stake chose differently. "Seong Jae-In," she said. "Yes. I am not leaving the contract." He opened his mouth. "Let me finish. I am not leaving because I am not afraid. I am afraid, let me be very clear. I am afraid for Lily. I am afraid for myself. But I am also—" She stopped. She found the words. "I am also afraid that if I walk away, you are doing this alone. And you have been doing things alone for a very long time." She looked at him. "You let my daughter in through your gate. You looked up her medication. You found her the best cardiologist in the country. You said every day when a 7-year-old asked if you missed your mother." She held his gaze. "Nobody who does those things should have to do anything alone." The room was completely quiet. Something happened in Seong Jae-In's face that Beatrice had never seen happen to anyone. A man slowly and carefully setting something down that he had been carrying for a very long time, not because someone took it from him, but because someone told him it was safe to put it down. "Beatrice," he said. "Yes, I need to tell you something else." His voice shifted, back to that flat, honest, factual register. But this time what it was reporting was different. "I need to tell you that in all the time I have been building things, organizations, arrangements, exits, I have not once built anything because I wanted it for myself." A pause. "This, what I feel when you are here, this is the first thing I have wanted for myself in a very long time. I am telling you because you deserve to know it, not because I expect anything, just because it is true." Beatrice sat with that. She sat with it the way she sat on her kitchen floor when she needed to think, fully and quietly, giving it the attention it deserved. Then she said, "The table in your dining room, the one where all the dangerous dinners happen. Yes? I want to cook dinner there tonight, just for two. No guests, no agenda, no event." She looked at him, just to see what the food tastes like when nothing is at stake. He looked at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, the ghost of the almost smile became something fully real, not brief, not gone. It stayed. "Yes," he said, "I would like that." She went to the kitchen. She cooked, and for the first time in 3 years of cooking to survive, cooking to grieve, to prove, to protect, she cooked simply because she wanted to. Because the ingredients were good, and the kitchen was warm, and there was someone in the next room who had been carrying things alone for too long and deserved, at least once, to eat. Food made for him. She did not know yet what was coming. She did not know that across the city, in a room she would never see, someone who had watched Seong Jae-In for years and understood exactly where his weak points were, had made a phone call, had said a name, had given an address. Her address. She did not know any of that yet. She just cooked. 3 people knew Beatrice's home address: her mother, Portia, and Mr. Paik, who had sent the security detail. Mr. Paik, who had worked for Seong Jae-In for 11 years. Mr. Paik, who had round glasses and the expression of someone competent and careful. Mr. Paik, who had, 4 years ago, before Seong Jae-In began building toward an exit, made a quiet arrangement with the people who needed Seong Jae-In to stay exactly where he was. Beatrice found out at 11 p.m. She found out because Lily woke up crying, not from a bad dream, from the sound of the gray car outside starting its engine and then stopping too fast. And Beatrice, who had Been a mother for 7 years and had developed the hearing of someone who processes threat at a cellular level. Went to the window and saw that the gray car was not parked where it had been. She called Seong Jae-In. He answered on the first ring, the way he always did. But this time his voice had a quality to it that she recognized. The tight, controlled quality from the night of the dinner that went wrong. "Get Lily and go to your mother," he said before she could say anything. "Right now, do not pack, just go." "What is happening?" "Someone gave them your address. I am—" A pause. "I am dealing with who?" "Seong Jae-In." "Beatrice, please." And underneath the tight control, underneath the flat and factual and careful, "Please." Just that word, carrying everything it needed to carry. "Please go." She went. She took Lily in her arms, her daughter barely awake, clutching a stuffed elephant named Professor. And she went through the back of the building the way she had scouted 3 days ago when the gray car first appeared, because Beatrice Owusu-Hammond had been underestimated her entire life, and she was very good at preparing for when things went wrong. Her mother was 4 hours away. She drove. Lily slept in the back seat with Professor. Beatrice drove through the dark city and then the dark highway, and she did not cry and she did not fall apart, because Lily was there, and there is nothing, not fear, not grief, not the weight of a dangerous man's enemies, that will make a mother fall apart in front of her child. Her phone rang at the 2-hour mark. "Portia." "Where are you?" Portia said. "Driving." "Why are you calling me at 1 in the morning?" "Because I got a call from someone named Seong Jae-In, who somehow has my number." Portia's voice was doing something new, something that was not disappointment, something that was genuinely unsettled. "Bae, he asked me to confirm you were safe. He asked me to—" A pause. "He told me to tell you that Mr. Paik has been removed and that the threat to your address has been neutralized. And then he said—" Beatrice waited. "He said to tell you that the dinner table is still set." She drove for another moment in silence. Then, "He said that?" "He said that." "What does that mean?" "It means—" Beatrice checked the mirror. Lily still sleeping, Professor still clutched. "It means I understand." She arrived at her mother's house at 4 in the morning. Her mother opened the door before she knocked. Mothers always hear the car. And took Lily from her arms without a word. Beatrice stood in the doorway of the house she had grown up in, and for the first time since 11 p.m., she let her shoulders come down. Her mother, from the hallway, with Lily in her arms. "Come inside, Beatrice." In a minute. She stood in the doorway, and she thought about Mr. Paik. 11 years. The man with the round glasses who had organized her schedule and texted her about the gray car, and known, the whole time, exactly what she did not know. She thought about betrayal, how it is almost never dramatic, how it is almost always a person who knew you well enough to know your weak points, how it comes from the inside, and that is why it lands differently than any other wound. She thought about Seong Jae-In removing a man who had worked beside him for 11 years. She thought about what that cost him, not just the logistics, but the part of him that still, despite everything, wanted to believe in people. She thought about not anymore, said in response to whether he had children. She thought about all the things a person loses, one by one, until the question is not what they have left, but whether they choose to keep going at all. She went inside. In the morning, after Lily had eaten her grandmother's food and declared it very good but not as good as Mama's, which made Beatrice's mother smile in the way mothers smile when they are pretending to be offended. Beatrice called him. He answered on the first ring. "Are you safe?" he asked. "We are safe. Are you?" A pause. "Yes." And then, quietly, "I owe you an apology. The contract, the arrangement. I told myself I was protecting you by not telling you everything. I was not protecting you. I was protecting myself from having to see your face when you found out what I am." Beatrice sat down on her mother's porch step. "Seong Jae-In, I told you I looked into you. I knew. I chose to come back knowing." A pause. The apology I need from you is not for what you are. It is for not trusting me with the whole truth. A long silence. You are right, he said. I am sorry. I know. She looked out at the morning. The table is still set, you said. I said to tell you, yes. Does that mean the exit is still possible? After last night? It is more complicated now. Mr. Pike gave them information. There are people who now know. He stopped. I am rebuilding the approach. It will take time. How much time? I do not know. Months. Maybe a year. She was quiet for a moment. Lily has her first appointment with the new cardiologist next Thursday. A beat of silence. How is she? She is fine. She is inside telling my mother that she needs to teach her Japanese. She heard something in the line. A small sound that might, in another person, have been a laugh. In him, it was quieter than that. Just breath and relief, and something that had needed to breathe for a long time. Beatrice, he said. Yes. When this is done, when it is safe, I would like to ask you something. Ask me now. It is not a now question. It is a... He paused. It is a question for when the table is clear, when there is nothing on it except dinner. She thought about the first time she had seen him at table 4 in her restaurant with the cardboard under the leg. She thought about him looking at the table and saying a new leg would fix it better, and her saying a new leg costs money. She thought about all the things that had been broken and the things that had been used to temporarily fix the broken things, and whether any of it was still, underneath, worth repairing. She thought, yes. I will wait for the question, she said. Thank you. Cook for yourself tonight, she said. You probably have not eaten. A pause. I do not cook. Then eat something. A beet. And Seong Jae-In. Yes. The food I made last night, before everything. The dinner for 2. Did you eat it? A long pause. Yes, I ate it after you left. And? It tasted... He stopped. She could hear him finding the word. It tasted like something made for a person who was loved. She sat on her mother's porch step in the morning light with the phone against her ear, and her daughter's voice coming from inside the house, and she said, very simply, good. 6 months later, the gray car was gone. The exit Seong Jae-In had been building took 11 months total, not 1 year, slightly less, and happened so quietly that nobody in the city would have noticed unless they knew exactly what they were looking for. The dinners stopped. The compound was sold to a real estate firm. 3 people who had worked against the transition were no longer problems, in ways that Beatrice knew she would never fully know, and had made her peace with that. Seong Jae-In moved into a smaller house, a real one, not a compound, 20 minutes from Creston Avenue. Beat's Kitchen got a new refrigerator seal, new table legs on every table that needed them, and a fresh coat of paint on the sign. The letter B was no longer chipped. She stood outside on the morning it was fixed and looked at it for a while. Lily started 2nd grade and was learning to write in Korean because she had decided, firmly and without any input from anyone, that she wanted to. Her teacher found this very unusual. Lily found her teacher's surprise very unusual. The cardiologist said Lily's heart was being well managed. She used the word optimal. Beatrice stood in the hallway after the appointment and said that word to herself twice because it was the best word anyone had said to her in years. Seong Jae-In was at the restaurant on a Thursday evening. Not an event, not a business arrangement. Table 4. The table with the new leg that no longer needed cardboard. He had a cup of coffee and a menu, even though he never needed the menu because he always ordered the same thing. Beatrice came out of the kitchen in her apron. She sat down across from him. He looked at her. She looked at him. The restaurant was quiet. Past the dinner rush, just 2 other tables still occupied. The warm, low light that made the place feel like the inside of something good. You said you had a question, she said. When the table was clear. He looked at the table, the new leg, the clean surface. Nothing on it except the coffee. I did say that, he said. The table is clear, she said. He looked at her. I spent 15, Years building things to protect myself from needing anyone, he said. And then I walked into a restaurant on Creston Avenue because a man named Raymond Cross said the food tasted like it was made for someone loved. And I found... He stopped. He found the words. I found the food, and the chef, and a 7-year-old who hides her shoe in the microwave. And I understood that I had not actually been building anything. I had been filling space. He looked at her steadily. I would like to stop filling space. I would like to build something real, with you. If you... He stopped. If that is... Yes, Beatrice said. He blinked. I had more to say. Say it another time. She stood up and started back toward the kitchen. Your order is almost ready. Beatrice. She turned at the kitchen door. He was looking at her the way. She would not remember later who had said it first, whether it was her mother or Lily or a voice from somewhere inside herself. The way someone looks at a person they have chosen on purpose. Not because the person was perfect. Not because the timing was right. Not because everything had been easy. But because they looked across a table and made a decision. And every day since then the decision had only made more sense. Thank you, he said, for the food. For coming back. For all of it. She looked at him. This man who had been too much for the world in a completely different way than she had. Too sharp, too dangerous, too closed. This man who said every day, and not anymore, and please, in a voice that knew how much those words weighed. You are welcome, she said. Eat your food before it gets cold. She went back into the kitchen. She put her hands on the counter and smiled at the pots and the clean surfaces and the good light, and she thought, they said no man would ever choose her. Look at what happened when they were wrong. Every time someone tells you what you cannot have, remember this story. Remember Beatrice on her kitchen floor. Remember a man who crossed the world looking for the taste of his mother's cooking and found something he was not looking for at all. Remember that the people who said no man would ever choose her were not seeing her. They were seeing their own fear of someone who refused to be less than she was. Subscribe and come back for the next story, because the next one will shake you even harder than this one did, and you are going to want to be here for it.